I was practicing TM for 12 years, and then I went to Fairfield. I worked for you. She was my boss. She owned this wonderful vegetarian restaurant called Peggy O'Neill's. It was great.
What was it called?
Peggy O'Neill's.
Oh, Peggy O'Neill.
I worked and I made the salad bar. I was the macaroni guy. I made macaroni, salad, and coleslaw. Anyway, so before that, Maharishi came to inaugurate the dome. Were you there for that? And there were, it was a structure where we were going to meditate, and there was this building that wasn't built yet. So the walls weren't up, but the frame was up. And there was a stage in there. And this would have been like December 28th, just after Christmas. And it was freezing in Iowa. It must have been 40 below with the wind chill factor, freezing. People wearing heavy parkers and hats and gloves and boots. And these three pundits are on the stage and they're chanting Rig Veda. And they have to put electric heaters near them, and they're giving them blankets, and they're shivering. This is their first time out of India. And there's this one pundit on the stage, and he has a very small mustache, and his hair is up to here, and he has these beautiful almond-shaped eyes, and he does not want to take any blanket. He's just there with his silk. And I wanted to jump on the stage because I felt like I wanted to take care of him. I wanted to do something. And every time he wouldn't take a shawl or anything, I would just feel like this angst. And then finally they put a shawl on him, and I just was like, oh, thank God. You know, I just felt relieved. And I just remember being so cold. And then Maharishi came out, and there was this inauguration that happened. And then later that day, we were going to do our meditation. We were in the field house in those days. And I was walking to where the meditation was. I had a backjack under my arm and, you know, all the paraphernalia we carry with us. And this white Cadillac drove around the campus. And the three pundits, who I refer to as the panditos, they were in the back of the car, and this guy with the beautiful eyes and very fair, he was on the edge, and he was looking out the window. And I just caught his eyes. And when I caught his eyes, something happened to me. I just started to cry. I mean, really cry, like one of those noisy, and, you know, mucus coming out and tears. And it just affected me. Why and what happened, I don't know. And then I went to the program and I did my meditation. I just remember my meditation was so deep. And I saw him again in India. I went to this Vedic science course Maharishi had, and there was several thousand people there, and he was on the stage. And I met him. I said one or two words to him. And then a friend of mine, Claire Atkins, she was in the Santa Monica Food Co-op, and I was shopping for wheat-free, sugar-free, taste-free cookies. And we collided, our carts collided. And she told me about Ravi Shankar, and she said, oh, this thing and this program, and this is fantastic, you have to do it. And I don't know what she said that made me resonate with it, but it was like, I have to do this. And I just marked the days on my calendar for 3 months, waiting for him to come to Santa Monica. And he came. Chris Reed, who's in the back, he was at that talk as well. And he was speaking, and it was the worst talk I've ever heard any spiritual teacher give. I mean, it was just so baffling. He had this concept, it was alien called Guru, and he was communicating to all of us what it would look like if an alien came onto the planet and observed what planet Earth was like. That was like how he was looking at life through his eyes. It just didn't work. And nobody really was getting anything out of the talk. And I remember asking a question. I had a little pocket recorder. I recorded it, and I saved that. And I asked a question about Dharma, of all things. And he answered my question. He wouldn't answer anybody's question, but my question he answered. And I got annoyed that he answered my question. People were getting annoyed that he wasn't answering their question. I get it, well, why do you answer my question? But anyway, and then afterwards, I just went up to him and I said, my meditations weren't going so well. And he said, take the course. So I did, and it was remarkable, you know. And what was so cool was that Guruji taught it, and that we all got to just sit with him. There were less people in my course than are here in this room. There were 11 of us, and it was during Guru Purnima, my very first course. And it was very special. We got to go back to the house with him and interact with him. And then at the end when he left, was that the first course? Yeah. So he taught one course, and then we drove him around, and we went to the beach with him. And he was walking with us, and he was telling us that we had all been with him in a previous life, and asking us if we remembered. And I said, no. And something strange was happening to me. I didn't know why, but I was in love with this guy. And I knew he liked me. I didn't know he liked everybody the same way he liked me, but I knew he liked me. And now I realize everybody has that experience with him. I thought it was just us. And I didn't know what was going on, because I was always attracted to women, still am. But here I was in a relationship with this guy with long hair and a beard, and I was in love with him. Like, it was, how am I going to tell my parents? And then we were driving back from the airport, and I remember Chris was in the car with me, and I had all these tears because he had gone on the plane, and I didn't want Chris to see me crying. And so I just remember holding back, and it was just so hard to drive, and all I could think about was him. And then the next weekend, I went and did the course again. And he was in Santa Monica. I couldn't handle him being in San Francisco and I was here, so I did the course again. And Chris was like, oh, I'm not going. When the day of the course came, there he is, Chris comes too. So we were both in the same place. Do you remember that?
Yeah, Judy had to go take it.
Judy took the course with me, but you weren't going, but you showed up. And Guruji was very pleased when he saw us all walk into the room. And now, mind you, the whole time I don't get that he's an enlightened master. And I know he's this cool guy with long hair and a beard that I met in Iowa, but...
So he was the Pandit?
He was the Pandit, yeah. Yeah. And I recognized that as soon as he walked into the room. Oh, it's him. And, but I didn't get that he was a guru, because we didn't call him Guruji. He was Panditji at that time. And then I took an advanced course. And then after the advanced course, I was completely spaced out. I could not function from my waist down. I couldn't feel my feet. I was like in the ethers somewhere. And I called him. I had his phone number. He was staying in New York. And I couldn't reach him, and I left a message for him. And then the next day I called again, and somebody answered the phone, and they said, hello? And I said, hi, I'd like to speak to Panditji. Who's calling? This is Michael, I'd like to speak to Panditji. Yes, speaking? No, Panditji, I'd like to speak. Yes, who's calling? It was him, but his voice was so high, I couldn't tell. I thought it was a woman. This goes on for like 5 minutes. It was like an Abbott and Costello kind of routine, you know? And yeah, exactly. I'd say, no, I want to speak to Panditji. He goes, yes, who's calling? No, I want to speak to... Okay, so it says, no, Michael, it's me, Pandit. Oh, hi. I'm so embarrassed. And then he said, you know, I called your house, and I got your answering machine. And do you remember back in the 70s, in the 80s, 90s, when answering machines first came out, you used to like record some beautiful music in the background, and then your voice. Now it's so boring. Hi, leave a message. But in those days, it was all new. So what I did was I had some sitar music from Ravi Shankar, the sitar player, playing in the background, Indian melody, and I'm reading from the 9th mandala of Rig Veda, and it says, I'm in the 7th heaven, where at the 7th sphere, where the sun wanders at will, where wishes and desires can be found. When I come back, I'll call you, so leave a message. But I do this with a heavy Indian accent and the sitar music in the background. please call me in. Then I will. So, but you know, like I'm a guru. That's the message. And then Guruji, I'm talking to him on the phone. He says, "Oh, I heard your message. I felt like I was in the heavens." I was so embarrassed. I mean, like, who would ever think somebody like that's going to call me? So we're talking, and we're going into all this stuff that I'm asking him questions, and he's explaining. And there was a conflict that I had about being with him. That a certain thing that was going on, and I was asking him questions. And he's talking to me, and he's explaining things to me. And finally, I mean, it was... Now, if you call Guruji on the phone, if you get 10 minutes of his time, that's a long phone call. We were on the phone for 2 hours. There was nobody. Nobody. I mean, it was not like hundreds of thousands of devotees, millions of people. There was like... There was Michael and John and Jeff and Chris Reed, and there was nobody. So he can spend time with me. And then in the middle of the conversation, I finally registered, I'm not talking to my lover. This is my guru. What am I thinking here? I mean, I didn't get it, but then I finally got it. And then I got nervous. I gotta go now. So that was how it all started. But
That was the short version.
But if you ever go to teacher training, and those of you who are teachers, there's a little book that you get as a teacher. It's called Walk Like a King. It's a very nice book. And it's just for little things Guruji said that can help teachers. And in the introduction, I put it together, and in the introduction, there's something that I wrote, like, to introduce the whole thing. Guruji read the introduction. We were in Europe somewhere, and he said, no, don't write that. That's not good. Write something else. Tell them the story of when I met you in Iowa, and you were freezing and standing there so cold, and I was on the stage, and I wouldn't take a blanket, and then I drove by, and I saw your eyes, and you cried. He said, tell that story. That'll be good. We never, ever discussed that. We had never talked about that, ever. And here I am in the room with him probably 15 years later. He says, tell that story. It is. So...